Tucker Carlson is under attack by a number of people. And I'm not talking about people on the left. I'm talking about people that are a part of his own party. One of them in particular, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has decided to wage a war against Tucker Carlson. And all of this is coming after this interview what Tucker Carlson had with Nick Fuentes. I want to go ahead and get into this here. And we'll tell you, and I'm going to show you what they're really afraid of. Cruz tells GOP it's time to stand up to Tucker Carlson. Speaking about right-wing anti-Semitism at a Federalist Society convention, the Texas senator said his colleagues think what is happening is horrifying, but are scared of Carlson's sway in the party. So Ted Cruz, again, when he had the interview with Tucker Carlson a while back, he said that, Israel was his priority, right? Like, never mind the people in Texas, never mind here, people right here in the United States, but Israel, that is his number one focus. I told you the same thing about Chuck Schumer. They say now that Chuck Schumer said he couldn't endorse Zohran Mamdani because he's a guardian for Israel. Really, really weird, guys. Again, prioritizing another country instead of Americans right here at home. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that Tucker Carlson does have a large following. Since leaving Fox News, he didn't decrease his following. His following has increased. And you can see that if you look at his interviews, whether they're on X or on YouTube, a lot of people are watching him. And what is also happening, which we've been talking about on the show as well, is there seems to be this split that is happening in the Republican Party of those who are not okay with U.S. funding going to Israel and thinks that, we should prioritize people here in this country, and those that are going by the old school establishment way of the Republican Party, which is to continue to prioritize Israel because of religious reasons. Now, I've debunked on this show multiple times some of the things that people are saying is in the Bible. We don't have to go down that road again today, but I have said before, I believe this is one big psyop. This idea that we have to prioritize Israel because of biblical reasons. The United States is a country that has freedom of religion. We have a separation of church and state. So our government should not be acting on the behalf of another government based on religion. The religion part is used as an excuse. And I told you before, I believe that Israel is basically just a U.S. military outpost. They want Israel there in that region because they don't want the Arab countries to have control over the resources. That's what I feel a lot of this is really about. But if we go into this a little bit deeper, again, they got Ted Cruz out there speaking to people. And, oh yeah, I forgot I can't log into this one. Sorry, guys. But it says Senator Ted Cruz speaks at a U.S. Chamber of Commerce summit in Washington on September 10th, 2025. That was one of the events that he spoke at. But more recently, Ted Cruz coming after Tucker Carlson because of his interview with Nick Fuentes, because he is questioning the U.S. sending all this money to Israel and the focus on Israel. Now, these things are important. Again, I never would have thought I would have seen this happen within the Republican Party. Now, Tucker Carlson just recently was a part of this event that Megyn Kelly was hosting. And I want to show you what he said to Megyn Kelly and to the audience when she questioned him about his interview with Nick Fuentes. Listen to this.
Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time, including attacking my dad, which was the most vile of all, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have watched videos of him questioning the Holocaust, likening it to baking cookies in the oven, and there's no way you could have gotten to 6 million, seems to be his theory. He seems to think that we've way overstated the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. He's ripped on poor Usha Vance in the most offensive terms, which
Megyn Kelly really has no room to talk here. Megyn Kelly has said some vile things about Black people. Just go look at her X account. Megyn Kelly has said some vile things about Muslims. It continues to say those things. So she's one to talk about someone saying vile things. It's just hilarious to me how she considers herself to be, I guess, above Nick Fuentes, as if she holds herself to a different standard when she said some pretty nasty things too about different groups of people. She continues to send out her dog whistles as well. So it's hilarious to me that this is coming from her.
I mean, so what do you say to those people who say, why didn't you raise any of that?
You know, do your own interview the way that you want to do it. You're not my editor. Buzz off. I mean, I don't know. You want to go yell at Nick Fuentes? I'll give you his cell. Call him and go sit and yell at him and feel virtuous or whatever. That's up to you. I got the same thing with Putin. Why aren't you yelling at him? Okay, why? So I can show that I'm a good person? I care about what my wife thinks, my children think, and God thinks, and that's it. I don't need to prove that I'm a good person to you. You may think I'm a terrible person. Okay, I'm just doing my thing, which is I want to understand what people think. And I'm committed to that. And if you don't like it, don't watch. That's my view.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson would have never been able to do this on Fox News. That is for sure. But it is interesting to me that so many people in the Republican Party are trying to tell him who he can and cannot talk to. And again, it just goes back to what I was saying before about the gatekeeping. Once you start to move in a certain way, once you start to move in a way that they don't like you moving, you're a problem. Once you start to step outside of those boundaries, once you go against some of the positions that they have, you are now considered to be a problem. This has happened in the Democratic Party too, by the way. This has happened in the Democratic Party too, where there have been politicians or there have been commentators that decided to question things and they were blacklisted. Blacklisted. So that was one of the things that Tucker Carlson said there. Also, during this discussion, he also brought up Randy Fine, and I thought this was actually pretty funny. Listen to this.
The main criticism, as I understand it, has been, well, yes, platforming. They say that I don't accept platforming as a valid objection.
When is that a verb, by the way? You take a noun and you make it into a verb and nobody says anything? As a former editor, I say no.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Honestly, but as far as I know, Nick Fuentes hasn't eaten anyone. You know, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer ate people, and he was platformed by Diane Sawyer.
We have a sitting member of Congress. I spoke to the Speaker of the House about this today. We have a sitting member of Congress from Florida called Randy Fine, who was literally texted or put on Twitter, we should kill them all, every single one. Someone texted a picture of a dead baby, and he laughs at it. And it's like, this guy's a lawmaker who's appropriating money to a military committing genocide, and that's cool? It's not cool.
No.
And let's just be honest. That is much worse than anything Nick Fuentes has said.
Uh-oh. See, this is the Republican Party does not like this. By the way, I'm really curious to know who in the hell voted for Randy Fine. This guy is absolutely disgusting with the things that he says. Very racist, very nasty towards people. And that's a sitting congressman. Tucker Carlson is correct about that. But it's just really interesting to me that if you say that you are a party that cares about family and family values, why would you be okay with the representative saying kill them all? See, this is where the hypocrisy comes in, right? Yeah. So they don't like this. Tucker Carlson calling out people that are a part of his own party.
Period.
So the main pushback has been when you had Jeffrey Dahmer or the Ku Klux Klan, or et cetera, these journalists went after them, like exposed the terrible things. And Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time, including attacking my dad, which was the most vile of all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then they get into the Nick Fuentes part there. Okay. So Tucker Carlson is under attack. There are a number of people that are coming after him. Ted Cruz, I think it stems from this. I don't think it's just Nick Fuentes. If we go back to this Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz interview that they had a while back, where Tucker Carlson pushed back on him quite a bit in regards to Israel, I think this is where it comes from for Ted Cruz, because Tucker Carlson is someone that's supposed to be on his team. And so Ted Cruz is sitting there thinking, we're on the same team. We're a part of the same party. What are you doing? Why are you coming to me the same way that some of the leftists would come to me about this particular issue? Ted Cruz sees Tucker Carlson as a traitor. Let's just go back and watch, just so everybody can remember what happened here.
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese, you're not talking about Japanese, you're not talking about the Brits, you're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I.
Let's pause here. This is the trick that they like to use, right? You talk about Israel and they say, no, you're talking about the Jews. When they say that, it's important that we point out that they are basically erasing all the other people that live in Israel that are not Jewish. There are Palestinians that live in Israel. They're erasing them. They're erasing people who are Christian who live there. And also, we have to remember that Israel is a secular state. So when they play that trick with you, you need to keep in mind that that is the way that you can push back, is to remind them that there are other people who are living there as well, including Ethiopians. Let's continue.
I am sad.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that.
Yeah. So for me, I think it all goes back to this interview with Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. And Ted Cruz was pretty defensive after this interview on Twitter. He was just going back and forth, arguing with people. He was not too happy of the way that he came off in this interview, but that's the energy that he gave. And he made it very clear what his priority was. His priority was Israel, not the United States. So to that, again, I say, Ted Cruz he's bought off by AIPAC and other industries as well. But I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And then now you can add the Nick Fuentes interview as basically the cherry on top, right? So that's the nail in the coffin, like bam. Now, so a lot of people were coming after him. Also, Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro was just on CNN. Now, first of all, I thought CNN was fake news. So why are you there, Ben? 2, Ben Shapiro was on CNN News basically advocating for the need for people to basically go against Tucker Carlson. He went on to CNN to do this. Do you see what happens when they consider you a traitor? When they feel like you betrayed them in some way, shape, or form? This is an all-out war. They're doing a press circuit against Tucker Carlson, who's a part of the same political party as them, all because he disagrees with them on this one issue. That sounds like a cult. Listen to what he said here to Jake Tapper.
I think that Kevin really screwed things up last week when he decided to inject himself into this controversy with his vociferous defense that contained some rather charged language. I think he's doing the right thing by pointing out the obvious, which is that if somebody glosses Nazis on the air, that person probably should not be associated with a conservative think tank, and that everyone should have a duty to say that that is a bad thing to do. So I'm grateful to Kevin for doing that. I think it's a very good thing that he did that.
Ben Shapiro sat down across the table from Benjamin Netanyahu. You see, somehow, I don't know what it is, but it's like, look, I am not a fan of Nick Fuentes. I have a lot to say about Nick Fuentes. At the same time, it seems like it's okay for Ben Shapiro. It's not okay for Tucker Carlson to sit down and have an interview with Nick Fuentes, but it's okay for Ben Shapiro to sit down and have an interview with Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a war criminal, who has killed all these people in Gaza, who has stood up in front of Congress and talked about the greater Israel, which would be expelling the rest of the Palestinians that are there. So it's okay for you to talk to a murderer, but it's not okay for Tucker Carlson to talk to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is a lot of things. He's a racist, he's an asshole, but Nick Fuentes hasn't killed anybody. Let that sink in. The propaganda war begins, folks.
Real issue here is I think that Tucker Carlson's morphing from, I would say, a very edgy right-wing political figure on Fox News, but certainly within the mainstream, into a conspiracist, a person who ideologically launders anti-Semitism, who ideologically launders all sorts of anti-Americanism on his show, and then airs it for the public to hear with interviews like the ones he did with Nick Fuentes, which was essentially a massage of Nick Fuentes. You know, I think.
Pause here. When did you ever see Tucker Carlson promote anti-Americanism? Ladies and gentlemen, when have you ever seen him, of all people, when have you ever seen Tucker Carlson promote anti-Americanism? I mean, of all the people, he's just making stuff up. He's just saying things. Just like he just said recently that Candace Owens said that Erica Kirk killed Charlie Kirk. Candace has not said that. He's just putting things out there. Just lie. All they do is just lie, 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 lie.
That took a lot of people by surprise, probably including Kevin.
The Washington Free Beacon obtained and posted video of yesterday's Heritage Foundation staff meeting where Roberts apologized for how he's handled Tucker's conversation with Nick Fuentes. Here's part of what Roberts had to say.
I didn't know much about this Fuentes guy. I still don't, which underscores the mistake. I can tell you with a clear conscience and not making any excuses that those were my intentions, to fix all of that. And obviously I didn't. I made them worse.
We reached out to the Heritage Foundation for comment about the video. We were referred to Kevin Roberts' social media post from yesterday. What's your reaction? And let me just note that Nick Fuentes has been fairly notorious for years now, including when he dined with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, I think that's true, but I think that really in order to experience the full wonders of the Nick Fuentes catalog, you really do have to spend some time going through the receipts. I did that earlier this week on my show. And the truth is that most people don't watch politics all that granularly. Even people who are in politics don't spend a lot of time on sort of the fringe edgelord right, the way that Fuentes is. And so the sort of mainstreaming, the popularization and normalization of Fuentes by Carlson is significantly more important than just Fuentes' existence, obviously. It was a seminal moment, I think, when it comes to the right's decision as to whether Tucker himself is a source of truth or whether he is a destructive force inside conservatism.
So
it's so funny because they're actually making Nick Fuentes more popular by putting this out on corporate media. So for people who may not have been aware who Nick Fuentes is, if they watch CNN regularly, they know who he is now. That's the funny part about all of this. But Ben Shapiro goes on to CNN to basically tell everybody, we have got to take down Tucker Carlson. We've got to do something about this guy. All because he disagrees with you on one particular point. I haven't seen Tucker Carlson turn into a Democrat. I haven't seen Tucker Carlson, champion for socialism or anything like that. No. But because he disagrees with you on this one issue, now they feel like, okay, we got to go take him down. And why is it that issue? This whole idea that we need to prioritize Israel, Ben Shapiro, anybody else, this whole idea that needs to be prioritized is ridiculous. No other country does this. No other country prioritizes another country over their own. You wouldn't prioritize someone else's kids over your kids. I mean, this is something to think about. It's insane when you think about it.
One of the things you've noted is that it isn't so much, your problem isn't so much that Tucker Carlson had Fuentes on his show, but that he didn't push back at all on the neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, pro-Joseph Stalin rhetoric, et cetera. I just wonder, last week at a Turning Point event, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked by a student about an anti-Semitic falsehood, this crazy notion that Judaism openly supports the persecution of Christians. It's not true. But J.D. Vance was asked about it. Instead of pushing back or correcting the questioner, he said this.
There are some significant theological disagreements between Christians and Jews. My attitude is, let's have those conversations. Let's have those disagreements when we have them. But if there are shared areas of interest, we ought to be willing to do that too.
What did you think of that?
You know, obviously in a vacuum, I think that answer is fine. I think it's a response to the question, which was asked, as you say, in a tremendously anti-Semitic way, the idea that Jews are persecutors of Christians is an absurd contention. Obviously, I would have preferred more from the vice president, but I think the broader problem here is, again, that you have an enormous number of young people who are engaging with true white supremacist, anti-Jew content and are taken in by it, and they're doing...
Pause. I'm sorry, I'll let him finish, but I got to pause there for a second. Why is Ben Shapiro and Jake Tapper, of all people, why are they pretending like they never had white supremacists in the Republican Party? Hello. Why are they pretending like they never had white supremacists in their party? Why is this all of a sudden a thing now? You know why? Because this time it involves Israel. And some people in the Republican Party have turned away from Israel. It's just crazy to me. I'll just go back a little bit so we can let
more from the vice president. But I think the broader problem here is, again, that you have an enormous number of young people who are engaging with true white supremacist, anti-Jew content and are taken in by it. And there do need to be more voices pushing back on that.
Ben Shapiro, we thank you for your voice. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Boy, I tell you, oh man, you know it's got to be desperate times if you're willing to go on to CNN, which you said is fake news. You know it has to be desperate times. Mark Levin also heavily coming out against Tucker Carlson. And you'll see here, apparently, according to Mark Levin, Tucker Carlson did offer to debate him. Listen to this.
I got a very strange text this morning from Tucker Carlson. 10:16 a.m. I'll read it to you for verbatim. Good morning, he writes to me. The leadership at Turning Point has asked me to debate you at their event in Scottsdale in December. I'm happy to do it, and I hope you'll agree as well. Beyond the personal insults, which I'll try to keep to a minimum, there are real and important ideological differences between us, and I think the country would benefit from an extended conversation about them. So again, I hope you'll accept. Let me know. Thanks. The guy is desperate. He's taking a hit on his podcast. He's fighting like hell for his career. He's fighting like hell for his reputation. People are awakening to what scum he actually is.
It doesn't seem like Tucker Carlson is taking a hit on his podcast to me. Seems like to me he's continuing to grow. And if that were the case, then you wouldn't be out here putting out these smear attempts. The thing is this. When someone says to you, okay, let's debate, let's talk, let's get together and talk about these issues, and Mark Levin is refusing to do so, that is a big red flag, because what that tells you is that Mark Levin doesn't want to have that conversation with Tucker Carlson face to face, because that was never the attempt. That was never the goal. The goal was to smear. The goal was to smear, ruin the character, attack. That's the goal. You see, this is another thing. This is something you should pay attention to. When people have this back and forth online or whatever, and then one of them says, okay, let's sit down and let's talk about it, and the person who is attacking them refuses to do so, because that was never the goal. Mark Levin's goal isn't to change Tucker Carlson's mind. Mark Levin's goal is to destroy Tucker Carlson's credibility, his character. The goal is to smear. So he's not interested in having that dialogue with him. So we can't say that. They can't say he didn't reach out. They can't say he didn't, want to sit down and engage and let's figure this thing out. No. I wanted you to hear that. A little bit more here.
And he thinks I'm going to platform him? He thinks I'm going to help him kick up his podcast ratings? What would Charlie say? What would Rush say? What would any rational response? Here it is. I wrote him the following. My family and I want nothing to do with you. What you've become, your vile libels against my faith, millions of Christians, and in my view, what you seek to do to our country. There's nothing to debate. You're a Nazi promoter. You're the modern day David Duke. I debate people with whom I disagree for a living.
What would Charlie Kirk say? Look, I'm not a Republican. I was not a supporter of Charlie Kirk, but based on what I did see, it seems like Charlie Kirk would have allowed the debate to happen. Probably would have even offered to moderate that debate. He didn't seem to be closed off to having discussions with people who disagreed with him. That's one thing we can say. So I don't know what Mark Levin's talking about here. That's probably what Charlie Kirk would say. The last debate that caused a lot of, I guess, controversy towards Charlie Kirk was that one there with Dave Smith and Josh Hammer, and he was the moderator. He got a lot of heat for that. So, listen, man. Let me tell you something. Tucker Carlson, I never thought I'd see the day when they would come after him. The all-American, I guess the all-American, picture, like if somebody said who's the all-American like guy, like a lot of people will point to a picture of Tucker Carlson, right? He kind of has that look about him. They are coming after him just because he doesn't want to continue to bend the knee. And here's the reason, another reason why. I don't know if everybody saw this. Listen to what the kids are saying. The kids are all right.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Trump, and Ms. Trump. I'd like to ask about your father's relationship with Israel. He's taken over $230 million from pro-Israel groups. During the summer against Iran, even though he advised against it, Israel still attacked Iran and the U.S. still bombed on behalf of Israel. Your father's frustrations with Netanyahu have been made clear when he cursed on national TV over the situation. Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the USS Liberty. Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending Christians, but how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself?
There it is. There it is. Something's happening, folks. And hey, I'm loving it. I'm just sitting back here and I'm like, I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I am loving it. The people are waking up. Young people have woken up, and I'm here for all of it. And Tucker Carlson, listen, I don't know, guys. It seems like his own party trying to get rid of him. You see what they already did to Candace. Now they trying to push him aside. Like, okay, we don't want you over here anymore. Go be a part of another club. It's crazy times. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.